It's repatriation.
In fact, I was traveling, looking at the harbor a while ago. Yes, as I'm making my way into the studio, coming in from the NMIA. Yeah, there are lots of cyclists out there, joggers, walkers, persons doing their exercises, a few fishermen as well. A couple of them using their lines and a few boats in the harbor as they try to do their usual stuff. We say good morning to you and welcome to Top of the Bridge Up and Go for today, Thursday, the 20th of July, 2023. My name is Richie B.
DJ Auden in the building.
All right, and good morning also to Kevin, who is here with us, and to the entire Bridge Nation here, all across the island of Jamaica and all around the world, locked in right now through the means of technology. Yes, sir.
So tell me something. You saw the Black Star Liner.
I saw what looked very similar to images that I've seen previously of the Black Star Liner. Yeah, but you know, Fred Locks is the man who gave us that big worldwide, almost can call it an anthem, man. Yep. And I was just browsing through YouTube recently, and I saw an interview that he had done years ago. And he had a lot of stories about different artists, a few jokes about Gregory Isaacs. Red Locks. Just on a humorous note, you know, he was talking about a promoter who booked Gregory for a show, and it just didn't work out. It didn't work. Gregory was there, but the crowd wasn't there. Yeah. And eventually the promoter tried calling Gregory, but he was already back on his way back into Kingston from the country.
Oh, really?
And, you know, Gregory basically made some statements to the effect that, you know, he was supposed to be paid to sing. But based on what was happening, he didn't have to sing, so he's on his way back in to Kingston. That's Gregory for you. But he went on to say that Dennis Emmanuel Brown was his biggest singer, and he rated him highly above everybody else. Yeah, and he spoke highly of Dennis Brown. He spoke about the fact that he was trying to eventually get a collaboration with Dennis.
With Dennis?
Yeah, and it was supposed to happen, and they went to a studio. He went to the studio with some other friends on a particular night. And they were there waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, and no Dennis Brown would arrive. Well, of course, Dennis Brown was having some health challenges and was actually hospitalized. And unfortunately, he passed the following day before that collaboration could happen. So it's a lot of history that we like to listen to these stuff and learn more about the music. So once again, we say big ups to Fred Locks. Oddly, there's no station in Jamaica right now playing songs like these. No, sir. No. Bridge 99 FM. We have our WTF that we're going to share. WTF, what the fact? Time for WTF. And this is an interesting fact that we want to share with our Bridge Nation. Did you know that at any given time, people do not breathe out of both nostrils at the same degree and the same level?
Oh, really?
Yep. That's it. At any given time, people do about 75% of their breathing from one nostril and the next 25% from the other.
Well, that is a firing order.
I was very surprised. It's called the nasal cycle.
Yeah.
And in that cycle, as research indicates, and people like the great Dr. Michael Benninger, he's a head and neck doctor at the Cleveland Clinic, and many others have participated in that research, which indicates that people, human beings like us, and all of the Bridge Nation, we do about 75% of breathing from one nostril and 25% from the other. So why do we really breathe out of both nostrils at once? It is all about the nasal cycle, and although we don't usually notice it, during the nasal cycle, one nostril, it was found, becomes somewhat congested and thus contributes less to airflow, while the other becomes decongested. And so that in a nutshell is what? So you don't have to have the flu or a cold or something like that.
Interesting.
Yes, sir.
Let me tell you. So, 75-25.
Yes, that is the split. No one is really sure why the nasal cycle occurs. Even the doctor himself, Benninger, said. But there's one popular theory. Some people have speculated that it has to do with allowing moisture to build up on one side so that it doesn't get too dry. So the Almighty knew what to do. Wow. The father knew what he was doing. He had a plan.
I didn't know that, Richard.
Yes, sir. I didn't either.
Well, I may check.
Let me just, you want to know how long since I've known that?
Hold on.
2.5 minutes. Yeah, so that's a fact that you can take with you. You can look a little bit deeper into it if you want to, but make sure that you're breathing. And remember, it's going to be one nostril responsible for 75% of the breathing that we do, and the other 25% at a time.
Yeah, get them on. Yeah.
All right, Bridge Nation, what going? You don't know your boy Shells there. No, here what going? We know what's happening right now. A lot of persons have a lot to say, to America right now. And Sizzler have a little thing for say too, as he takes aim at the U.S. Embassy over LGBTQ support. He says, and I quote, "Keep your visa." Yes, right. Now declaring that a visa was not important to his career, and he was a superstar long before he received one. Cesar Kalonji has rebuked the United States for allowing female spaces to be invaded by men, and its embassy in Jamaica for daring to fly the LGBTQ flag. And this was all done during a performance at an event in Hartford Tree over the weekend. The Augustown native voiced objection to the promotion of any LGBTQ plus related material in Jamaican schools, and declared that any elevation of groups or persons in institutions of learning must be reserved for national heroes.
All right.
Yes,
that's Miguel Collins for you.
Yes, yep. Kalonji just say,
Yeah, you was always
keep it out of the schools, especially.
Individual.
He didn't. Do you know whether or not he went on to speak about the
certain
matter
situation.
of diplomatic immunity that is topical right now?
No, like him not. Him just simply say, keep your views.
Like him. All right.
Yeah.
Bold statement. Knowing him and his beliefs and so on,
yeah.
I suspect that as time goes on, we're going to be hearing even those kinds of matters being.
Probably watch his space.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
For a minute. All right, you saw where Burna Boy stopped by
Judgment Yard
and had a good time.
Vibes.
Yeah, man.
Man.
Big up Sizzler and show him about the influence that Sizzler himself had on his career. So, all right. Thanks for that, Charles. It is what it is, man. People are always going to be talking, and there's going to be different views and so on out there contending. What are your views, by the way, Rich Nation? 876-551-5782. Let us hear all of your views as we go along throughout the morning. I have a story to share with you about Freddie McGregor, and this is one that we want to celebrate this fact that he has made his first return to a stage, and that happened recently on July 16, as a matter of fact. 8 months after suffering a stroke, Freddie McGregor set sail on the Mighty Crown Sound System's Far East Reggae Cruise. Isn't that a good look?
Yeah,
we had him on the program recently. I know that he's very excited about appearing at Reggae Sumfest, and he will, along with his two sons, Chino and of course Stephen, the Genius McGregor, his daughter Yeshima Beth, and so on. So it's going to be a nice vibe down there in Montego Bay this Saturday with Freddie McGregor returning. But he set sail, as we mentioned, as part of the Mighty Crowns celebration, and he described the show as wicked. He said Japan was ready for me and I was ready for them. Never seen so many people cry. Both happy for my recovery and just simply happy to see me. Wow, that must be a very touching moment for the 67-year-old artist. Wow. And he said that he's looking forward to the next big gig, which is Reggae Sumfest, and that's, as I mentioned, he'll be on stage on Saturday night inside of Montego Bay. So kudos to Freddie McGregor. Welcome back to the world of entertainment and performance, and we understand that it went down very well. Big up yourself and your family, those members of the family who are supporting you on this journey. All right, that's it for
Update.
All right, Bridge Nation. We promised you that we were having a little chat about what's going on down under with the Women's World Cup happening right now, starting this morning, our time, as a matter of fact. And Shells, there was a shocking result in the very first match. You give us the deets on that, and also maybe tell us why it's so shocking.
Yeah, so, all right. So, as we know, the Women's World Cup will be held between Australia and New Zealand. So, one of the co-hosts, New Zealand, they kicked off the campaign against Norway. Now, for those who are not really following up the women's football, that's fine. But Norway is not a normal team. It's a very, very potent attack. Yeah, I mean, not normal. But New Zealand pulled it off, and they actually scored the first goal of the World Cup. It ended 1-0. Hannah Wilkinson scored the first goal of the World Cup. And yeah, it was a shocking victory. But
Norway, would you say, was one of the favorites?
Of course.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Of course. Not that far behind US.
Okay.
Yeah, very, very, very strong team.
And by the way, the US is ranked number 1.
Yes, and they're looking for a three-peat. This is if they win, they'll be 3 straight World Cups if they pull it off. But what's happening? Another thing that was surrounding the game is that it was a tough game for both teams to play. In all honesty, because hours before, there was a mass shooting in Auckland, New Zealand. So you can imagine what was going through the ladies' minds as they went on the pitch. But it meant a lot to the New Zealand women's team. The coach of Norway, her name is Risa, I think is her last name. She's saying that she came out to say, listen, it was a well-fought game. Credit to the opponents for winning, and she's not blaming the mass shooting. Because a lot of persons are placing that narrative. Maybe the mass shooting affected the Norwegians and so on. But she's saying that, nah, it was a fair game, and congrats to New Zealand.
All right. Well, that is the first match that was off earlier this morning, our time. Yeah. As we speak, Australia is actually doing battle.
Yeah, they're at it right now. They're currently leading the Republic of Ireland. Well, that game just finished, as a matter of fact. They won 1-0 as well. So both of the teams down under they start off,
come through with their first match on a winning note.
Yeah.
All right. Jamaica, as everybody wants to know when. I think we're playing on Sunday.
But 5 a.m. our time.
5 a.m. our time. Yeah. But I think we're up against formidable opponents. Fifth-ranked team in the world. Yep. We're talking about France. That sounds like it's going to be a hell of a match for us, for girls.
Listen to me. Listen, we'll eat some French fries. So wrong with it. Sure.
Would you suggest that they eat French fries before the match?
Yeah.
No.
Maybe that will put them in the mood to just devour them.
I don't know.
I mean.
I don't know. But that's going to be an interesting game, of course. As a rightfully so, Richie, France ranks number 5. We haven't played them before, so we're not sure what to expect. But it's a good look seeing that Jodie Brown, recovered from her injury.
Brown, because there was some scare earlier that she might not have made the first match. So but it's good to know that she's fit enough to make it. So and of course, Starball is also naturally
Bunny
Shaw and all the other names. We just want to wish them all the best, man.
And also just a reminder for those. So in the group with Jamaica, of course, France, Panama and and Brazil. Marta and Brazil. Yeah, so that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, Brazil is ranked at number 8.
Yeah, surprisingly.
Well, so it's a tough draw that we got.
Challenging group.
Listen to me. I said it off.
Here.
That boy Shells, Richie, like that group at that.
It's a challenging one, but
it's not.
We can do something.
Hey,
we can do something.
If Bonnie and them girls get going, man, no,
true.
It takes a good start. It just takes a good start. We don't know what can happen against France. It just takes a good start.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you're wondering what they're all playing for, well, the prize money is $110 million to the winning team. US dollars is what we're talking about. That is on offer to the 32 teams competing in the FIFA Women's World Cup. More than triple the $30 million prize fund for the last tournament 4 years ago. Wow. So they have made up some ground, but they're still a far way off from the $440 million that the men's team would have won the last World Cup. So it's really like a quarter of the amount, but still a big jump from the $30 million of 4 years ago.
Yeah,
and I think each team is going to be walking away with 200, and each player would be walking away with $270,000 US dollars. I was looking at the history of it. The first Women's World Cup was held in 1991, and there was no prize money that was awarded then until 2007. Sorry, when FIFA handed out a total of 5.8 million to competing teams, according to our reports.
Wow.
And as I said, they're at 110 million, and it's a nice change for us to work for, and the girls would have that at the back of their minds. I see where Ireland, their members of their squad will be given at least $30,000 apiece. But I understand that the president of FIFA is closely watching how the monies, any prize monies, are being distributed, so that the players, it seems he wants to make sure that they can benefit.
Yeah, that's fair.
JFF, you heard.
That's fair. That is fair.
Yeah, so it's going to be an interesting setup, and like we say, Jamaica kicks into action this Sunday at 5 o'clock our time. And they'll be playing France. And we're hoping and praying that they will do well.
Yeah. Hey, question. Any Saudi teams in the World Cup?
I'd have to check, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm sure. So, me, I go check in on the World Cup once Jamaica play. Sunday, me, I check in. I just go and watch the results. But speaking on the prizes money, Richie, I do see it increasing, though, in coming years. Just because I feel like the women's game, just if you sit down and really meds women's football, it's quite entertaining, it's quite interesting, you know what I mean? There's some real ballers over there.
Trust me. There are times when I switch on and maybe just happen upon a female match. And it takes me a little while to realize that I'm really not watching men playing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's interesting stuff.
Yeah,
So,
a
lot of it has to do with the advertising. But that is obviously increasing.
Yeah, I think it's going to increase.
Yeah,
and I think, and not to show, throw any shade on the Americans, but I think if the Americans can get more competition, then I think the game would be a little bit more interesting, especially the World Cup, because America, they're just like the runaway leaders, right?
But interestingly,
let's watch this.
Interestingly, the Americans actually leveled the playing field with the women and the men.
On their end,
actually earning, I think, pretty much the same amount of money,
which is fair. I've always said it. The U.S. women's team, but better than the men's team.
Let's see whether or not in this case the U.S. will cough and the world gets us gets the cold. You know what I mean? Yeah, let us see. But anyway, you take it. In wrapping up this segment, we wish our reggae girls all the best in the FIFA Women's World Cup. Massive and Crew, it's now time for the UK Connection. And it's our pleasure to introduce and welcome our good friend Robo Ranks.
Good morning. I was gonna say 1 2 1 2 1 2 about 4. That's right. Okay.
That
might
works.
sound better.
That works.
It sounds better.
You could have even gone level.
But Kevin's got the levels. I know. He have the levels. Good morning, team. How are you guys this morning?
We're doing well, bro. How about you?
I've been peeping in. I've been listening in. I was listening a bit of a conversation driving in about the women's football, which we totally, gentlemen, we didn't even talk about it into lead up. But all of a sudden, Shells has got all the stats, all the facts.
Come on, man.
Last week he was talking about something completely different. All of a sudden he's a World Cup expert. You go, Shells. But we all, just admit it. We all only tuned in this week, so we are gonna check Wagwan and see it.
But Robert, I mentioned it and I said, to be honest, if you don't have the stats, I'm not going to watch a game until Sunday. I'm not going to lie. Because that's when Jamaica plays. Jamaica's match is what's going to kick it off for me.
Obviously, we want to see how they do. I mean, England
up against France.
England won the Euros. So over here, I mean, every morning you're hearing the women's World Cup theme song. England, go England, go England, go England. Every morning. And they're already conceding defeat by the sounds of it. I'm only here listening to what I hear, like we're missing some players and yada yada yada. Oh, and we got a problem with our money. We're not getting the right type of, because now they are arguing about very disappointed at how the FA is issuing out their prize money if they should win. So there's a lot of excuses going in. So if England as a football nation do well in this World Cup, it would be a big thing over here, like it was when they won the Euros, but I don't expect much from them, and I'm not a keen.
I'm feeling that the Women's World Cup is going to be surprising. A lot of teams will surprise. I mean, we already had one this morning where New Zealand beat Norway. But there's a group from this Caribbean island called Jamaica.
Oh yeah!
I think we're going to surprise a lot of people in this competition. Mark my word.
Yeah, I agree.
You think so?
I do honestly think so. And I said it earlier. If Khadija Shaw gets going in a brethren.
Hey, Robo, we're gonna have some French fries later.
Weird. The fence is the fence. What you said? You said Jamaica go in.
Robo, I'm off the fence this morning. Come off my fence.
Yeah, well, I understand national pride kicks in, but I think it's gonna be interesting. But I can't see anybody. I mean, with Australia being the host nation and Sam Kerr. And of course, the Americans. I don't know if you can put it past those two teams.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, when you think of the fact that Khadija Shaw was the top baller for Man City
women's
team in the past season, I think that must give her some degree of confidence. And she's not the only female striker that has been performing quite well in the lead up. So we can't be ruled out of gaining a few victories in this competition.
It takes more than one player, as you know.
Yeah, so that's why I mentioned that the other players have been also doing fairly well in the lead up.
Yeah, I get it. I get where both of you go.
I have to be biased towards
That's what Robo is saying. That's what Robo said. He gets national pride.
Yes,
we grew up tough. We're not even gonna go around.
Yeah, that's a really tough group. And even though Brazil are like not on their top.
Yeah,
they're the
their tournament football team.
Season team.
Yeah, man. I don't know. Be interesting. We'll see how the match goes Sunday. I'm sure when we talk on Monday.
If we get a good start on Sunday, then I think that would change the whole trajectory.
Yeah,
but even if you get a good start in the group stage, it doesn't. You get one win and you get 3 draws. Go home. Yeah. Good night. Good night. That'll be good night.
But a win in a group like this could boost our confidence big time and raise the performance level.
Yeah, I agree.
Tenfold.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I hope they do really well. I mean, it's about time we can stop talking about cricket and talk about something different, like Jamaican women football. You know, this we've been talking about cricket since the '60s. Come on, now, change the tune.
Before we move on, I just want to say in terms of these games, gents, especially when we play France and Brazil, I think it's a good look. In terms of having the eyes of the world on Jamaica. And, if we could put in a good performance, Richie, I think, in terms of sponsorship and support going forward can go. So that's how I'm looking at these games. If we put in a good show, give them a fight, as we like to say.
Yeah, then we can score against some big teams.
Then we can say, all right, the program of our vibes, it's more than Khadija, it's more than Jody Brown. All right, we'll see what I go on. So that's how I'm going in these games, Robo. Yeah, so
I really hope for the players that a lot more would get scouted and
that's right.
Find themselves at really, really top clubs.
That's
because
right.
A lot of the time we watch football, we've been watching football as we have for many years, and there's so many players that gets so underrated because of media attention or the local club they play for are not that great. And we all saw it many years ago when Bibi Gardner was a Jamaican footballer playing his football. He went to the World Cup and he went on and has been one of the and if you look at the history of the Premier League, he's one of the best fullbacks ever. Played in
Bolton,
the league, but
Bolton
before was nowhere to be seen. So
that's right.
I hope they get their opportunities.
Here's a young man that is being seen and has been actually named in the CONCACAF Gold Cup Best 11, Damari Gray.
Of course.
It's a good look for him. He's the only Jamaican that actually made the CONCACAF Best 11 for the Gold Cup. We're not surprised, are we?
I am not.
Damari Gray doing very, very well.
Yeah.
And we'll be heading over to
very underrated.
To the Middle East.
Underrated.
Yeah. You think so?
Of course.
Oh, in the UK, they don't see him as they don't give him the accolades. I mean,
well,
I mean, you got a certain Declan Rice and Peas going for 105 million pounds. And if you do the eye test, you have to wonder how, why, where 105 pounds.
funny.
I wonder if that's why he's going over to the was it Middle
Saudis?
East? Saudi Arabia.
No, them are. Why not?
Well, if you don't get the respect, get the money.
Get the money. That's what I
Get the
said.
money. The moolah.
Talking about money, if you want to win the mega lottery, you have a 1 in 303 million chance of winning that lottery, which is valued at I think over $1 billion now. As we just dropped a little money of a different nature into the mix. Yeah, 1 in 303 million.
I'll take that chance.
But remember, guys, if you don't have a ticket, you don't have a chance.
Exactly. Take it.
Does the fence play the lottery, or is he? I don't know.
I think the fence.
Odds, do you play the lottery?
Say again.
You play the
Do you
lottery.
play the lotto?
Of course. Listen,
Yeah,
Is that on a drop? Is that on a
Robo.
cash box still?
Robert. There's a thing, Robert. Well, and we don't want to get them attacked, but you know, there's a thing in Jamaica where you can broke out of brokenness.
Yeah.
So right now,
That's
one
the
broke out of brokenness.
That's the point.
No fence. You see, sometimes you have to drag him off the fence.
Drag
man,
him
some
off.
more. Nasty on the
Drag him
fence.
off on the fence. Yeah, last time we spoke to him about the cash pot, though, he said that he dreamt it or he got a number and didn't buy it or something.
Hey, listen.
I don't feel him buy it and just not tell me though.
Hey, Robo, Richie and Shells. It's so funny. It's so funny that you're having this conversation because let me tell you, I had the strangest, let me tell you, happenings with Lotto Robo. You know, well in Jamaica, well I don't know how it is in the States, but you know you have different draws, you know, different times, you know, where
we have different.
Well, the entire world is going to hear this now. I bought some numbers for a Wednesday draw, Robo. Went Saturday to check on the numbers, and all the numbers played on the Saturday draw.
OMG.
Oh wow.
Let me tell you.
Recently?
No, for a little while back. A little while back. Let me
Still
tell you.
suffering. Still suffering.
Let me tell you, Robo, I quietly took the readout and the ticket, and I saved it for a little while. Then I saw it. I crushed it.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you, and it was a lot of money, you know.
Go say, you know.
Millions.
Did you think that you won those odds?
Listen, looking at all the numbers, I'm like, yo, hold on. The brokenness gone.
Man, dash your Richie B, dash your money, everything, dash your... Yeah, man, win.
But when I
That's
look at
average.
the dates didn't match though, man. Let me tell you, it was...
Wow.
No, honestly,
That's a hard pill to swallow.
honestly, Robert, no lie. Never dash it, right? Because let me tell you, them things are mad. You know?
Go down there.
You
did very well.
I go down there.
To maintain his stability.
I go down there. I go to the betting shop. I go down there. Something.
Try something.
I like something.
All right, so once again, we say welcome to Constitutionally Speaking. It's a sponsored segment, courtesy of the Office of the Public Defender. And this morning, we have the pleasure of the Deputy Public Defender as our guest, looking at the topic, the Sexual Harassment Act. We say good morning to
Mr. Herbert McKenzie. Mr. Mac.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Mr. Mack.
We're there, Mr. Mac. We're there.
Yes, sir. We were talking about the Sexual Harassment Act,
Yes.
and last time we were here, technology conspired against us. So I'm going to pick up where I left off.
Please do.
I left off in the middle of the section in which I was dealing with transgression under the Sexual Offences Act. So we're an employee or a worker alleges that he or she has been, and knows I'm saying he or she because it's gender neutral, has been harassed by another employer worker. That person who alleged the harassment may lodge what is called a sexual harassment claim, and the claim must be in writing with the employer or the head of the institution. Now, the act set out a scheme which must be followed by the employer or the head of the institution, whatever the case may be. And let me just make a distinction here. The act talk about employer and head of institution. The mechanics are the same for both, but the employer refers to a situation of employee, as the name implies, while the institution refers to another relationship, like you are a resident in a home, you are a resident in a mental health facility, you are a resident on a university campus, you are an inmate, or you are simply a member of another institution, say a club, a dormitory type thing. That is what distinguishes the institution from the simple, straightforward employee-employer relationship. But like I said, the procedure and the mechanics of the process are similar. So that employer or head of institution who receives the sexual harassment complaint must first of all notify the worker in writing against whom the complainant is made. If it's a client who comes into the organization does the sexual harassment, it must be brought to the attention of the client, and within 14 days must commence an investigation, 14 days of the complainant being lodged. In the case of an institution where the student, the resident, inmate, or the patient, whoever the person is, or a member of the organization, alleges that sexual harassment took place, similarly, the head of the organization must inform the person against whom the sexual harassment claim is made and must commence an investigation within 14 days, just like the one with employer-employee relationships, except that in the case of an institution, the head must notify the person within 2 days. In the complainant, in the employee-employee relationship organization, inform the person against it made immediately or as soon as practicable thereafter. And you can understand, because most of the employees, everybody are much in a closer connection than in an institution. Now, once that is done, the process chips in, and there's quite a bit about the process. But we're going to bypass for now, come back to it, because I think there's something more important to share than the process, because the process itself drives. It's automatic. It drives itself along the way. And if the employer or head of the institution fails to do certain things, then certain other mechanisms kick in.
Okay.
So what we're going to discuss now is the tribunal itself, because whatever process kicks in, if the head of the institution or the boss at the workplace, the employer, fails to act, the tribunal will cover that. Now, the tribunal itself is the single most important feature in how the Sexual Harassment Act is operationalized. Now, let it be understood, though, that a person alleging sexual harassment, while the law said that the person may complain the head of the institution or the employer, well, that person, the arrest, can bypass both of those heads and go straight to the tribunal. And that's what makes the tribunal so paramount. The Act sets it up. That creates an entity. It's called the Sexual Harassment Tribunal. Some people might want to abbreviate that by using the initials of each word. Is Sexual Harassment Tribunal. Probably is not a good idea, because we might say the wrong thing. If we say the S, the H, and the T, roll it off your tongue too easily. Now, the tribunal is empowered to do mainly two things. A, to hear and determine complaints, and I'll touch on that. And B, make awards for compensation or other orders. Now, these are important features themselves of the tribunal. So let me deal firstly with the aspect of the tribunal's power to hear and determine complaints. The complaints that the tribunal can hear and determine are quite a plenty. One, the tribunal can hear a complaint where a worker was lodged a complaint of sexual harassment. See no action or no investigation be taken by the employer or the head to whom she would have made the complaint, or he would have made the complaint in the case that the complaint was made to the organization. and that applies for both employer or employee. In the case of, employer situation and institution type situation. So remember, we said institution, we're referring to people like the student, the ward, the inmate, the patient, the resident in the institution. Any one of those categories, the employee or a member in the institution, if having made the report of sexual harassment, the head of the institution or the employer does nothing, then that person can go straight to the tribunal. And that's one of the categories of the complaints that the tribunal can hear and determine. Another piece or another category of complaints that the tribunal is empowered to deal with is a complaint that is made against an employer or head of institution alleging that head to disclose unauthorized information related to the complainant. So suppose the complainant comes and say, look, Tom Jones has been touching me here, touching me there, and it has been going on for some time. I feel embarrassed. I don't want anybody to know. He and I are on the surface of it for platonic friends. My condition is so and so. That information is confidential. If the head of the institution or the employer discloses that, then that is a complaint, separate from the sexual harassment complaint itself, that the person arrested can bring directly to the tribunal. And like I said, if the employer or the head of the institution fails to take any action, that is something that the tribunal is sealed to hear and deal with. Now, a person may also come straight to the tribunal if the alleged harasser is the head of the institution himself or herself, or the head or the boss in the workplace. Also, if the harasser is a supervisor or anybody in authority, even though not the top boss, does the harassing, then the employee or the person harassed can bypass the head of the organization and go straight to the tribunal. Now, in cases where the person harassed is not yet a member of the organization, but is seeking to be, say, for example, come for interview, or say, for example, is there on a temporary basis or they're on probation and the sexual harassment takes place, then that too is sexual harassment, and the tribunal can deal with that, even though it was never reported to the head of the institution or the employer. And importantly, tribunal can deal with a complaint, and we're going to find that a lot of this type of complaints will reach the tribunal, where the person who makes a report to the employer or the head of the institution is not satisfied or is aggrieved by the outcome or the decision by the employer or the head of the institution. Say, for example, Susan Brown reports sexual harassment by Jim Brown or Tom Jones. They report, they follow the mechanics, do the process, and then in the end, the finding or the ruling of the employer or the institution is that, look, we don't find that your complaint has any merit. We don't believe that it's sexual harassment. This case is dismissed. Well, if that person making the complaint is so aggrieved, that person can go straight to the tribunal, and the tribunal is empowered to hear that. And I say that is going to be a frequent one because of our culture in Jamaica and how our thinking operates sometimes. Because in a workplace environment, say, for example, I'm forgiven for using female. It sounds sexist, but it is a gender-neutral statute. But most cases in our experience, we find it's females who are the complainants and the male species are the respondent. Say, for example, a female reports something that she finds sexual offensive and she regards as harassment and reports it. The employer or the head of the institution complains about, accepts it, and when the matter is investigated, they come for argument and say, no, it was a joke, he was running. You all run jokes like that. We have sat in the lunchroom and seen him touch you at different places, and everybody, including the female, laugh at it. While that finding may meritorious, that finding may be covered in evidence, the female might say, no, I don't like that. I wasn't touching any joking with him. He can touch me on my arm, he can touch me on my wrist, but he can't go elsewhere. And in a situation like that, she can go straight to the tribunal, and the tribunal can hear and determine that. Now, the tribunal itself, when the tribunal hear and determine complaint, because remember I said, there are two things that the tribunal can hear and determine complaints, and then having heard the complainant, they can make certain orders and awards. I've just gone through the complaints that the tribunal can hear and determine. Now let me look at some of the awards and orders that the tribunal can make. First and foremost, the tribunal, and by the way, these orders that the tribunal can make can apply whether or not the complaint came directed to the tribunal or the complaint went to the employer or head of institution first and the person was aggrieved with the outcome or dissatisfied with the outcome and then brings the matter to the tribunal. These orders transcend both categories of complaints. Firstly, the tribunal can dismiss the complaint. Simply find there is no merit in it on the facts. Sexual harassment is not proved. That's one. The tribunal can also rule in favor of the complainant, as well as the tribunal can rule in favor of the defendant. Now, if the tribunal rules in favor of the complainant, here are a couple of the orders and findings that the tribunal can make. The tribunal can say that the respondent, that is the person who the allegation is made against, was actually engaged in sexual harassment and give an order that he must cease and desist or that he must not repeat it. The tribunal can also say that the respondent, having been found liable, must perform some reasonable act or conduct to address redress or any loss or damage suffered by the complainant. Off the top of it, one could be, look, give a woman a written apology. Or we call a staff meeting and you give an apology. A number of different shades that order can take. The tribunal can also order the respondent pays the complainant a monetary sum. And of course, the ceiling of that one is $900,000. And before I go on, let me tell you why the ceiling is $900,000. Because where the tribunal orders a monetary compensation in favor of the complainant, if the respondent doesn't pay it, can go to the magistrate's court, they call it parish court now, and sue for that money like he or she would sue for a civil debt. And there needs no proof of any transaction between the two parties. All they need is a written order from the tribunal which made the monetary order for compensation. The tribunal can also order that the employer of the employee take such action within a reasonable time specified by the tribunal to ensure non-recurrence. So, for example, I'm just picking this out of the sky. There's a place of employment in which it probably is large enough to have one bathroom, a unisex bathroom. Mm-hmm. Both female and male use it. If, for example, a situation where the allegation is that the transgression took place in and around the bathroom, when it reaches the tribunal can say, look, Mr. Workplace, Mr. Institution, you have 3 months to ensure that you establish bathroom facilities for both genders, distinct and separate. An example. Now, the tribunal can also rule that any further action in this process should be stopped or stayed, and that is the final ruling. Now, anybody aggrieved by that ruling can take it to the Supreme Court, and the decision by the tribunal take effect from the day it is given or the date the tribunal specifies in the order that it will take effect. Like I said, the monetary compensation of $900,000. If somebody wants to enforce it, they have to go to the magistrate court. The reason being because the magistrate court has a jurisdictional cap at $1 million.
Wow, okay.
Not to be confused with a dissatisfaction with the tribunal ruling, which has to be taken to the Court of Appeal. As the time is upon us, I have more to say about the tribunal, its constitution, its composition. So I think we'll stay that until next week.
All right.
I would hope we would have enough time because there's something I want to say about the law that arises and the spat between the two, Kingston and Washington. Wow. But more anon.
More anon indeed. Mm-hmm. Wow. This was so interesting this morning and informative, Mr. Mackenzie. I want to thank you, and we look forward to catching up with you again soon inside of Constitutionally Speaking. You go have a great day today. Thank you so much.
And to you too, and to Mr. Shell.
All right. Much appreciated.